Hey, you know what, guys? This right here, this rambling, boring conversation containing already made before observations, this could be a podcast.
It's actually not a bad idea.
Really? A podcast? Don't you have to be some sort of whiz kid to do those?
Definitely not. Anyone with a computer can make one.
Well, that's it. We're anyone. Let's do a podcast from right here in the booth. Who's in?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Play Some Video Games. This is a different episode, something a little special for you. It's just Kevin and a special guest you might remember from about 20 episodes back, to be specific, Mr.
You guys are
Jeremy.
busy.
Yeah, we've been busy. Not quite as busy as you've been, but that's for sure. But yes, our friend Jeremy Alessi is back again. You might remember him from Midnight Status, the developers of Swap Fire on Wii U. They had a little bit of a special announcement, so we wanted to support them as much as we had fun with the first game. We wanted to continue that. So before we jump in, though, man, it's been a little bit, and a lot has gone on in your end since we last spoke. So how you been?
Pretty good. So let's see. I guess we spoke in December or January. I'm trying to think when the
Early February. Early February.
It was early February. Okay. Yeah. So we did Pixel Fest 2017.
That's right.
Which was cool. That was April. Like the main event was April 7th, 8th, and 9th, but we actually, like, including the game jam and like the developer conference, it was April 5th through the 9th. So it was kind of a crazy week. And sort of about, I guess, a month and a half after we spoke, also the Swap Fire 1 went free. We did like a free giveaway. We called it "If you can't switch them, swap them." So it's basically like for all the people who couldn't get a Switch because there weren't enough of them. We were like, hey, here, have our game for free. So give it a try. I think, a lot of people played it and they weren't sure what to expect, or, they weren't fans of the game before they played that. And I think most people anyway seem to like it. We have 4 stars on the eShop and got a couple more good reviews on Metacritic, which was pretty cool. Hey, there's some people that hated it too, so, hey, we love you guys also. It happens. What are you going to do? But, that was actually really awesome. I don't know if you saw the screenshot too, because Swap Fire, like if I never do anything else in video games ever again, Swap Fire hit the #2 spot under Zelda Breath of the Wild.
I did see that. That
was probably, that could be like the last claim to fame. I don't know. We'll see. That was pretty cool though. It's really hard to gauge. We don't really have a lot of analytics into that. We know how many people we got. We got about 22,430 people.
Wow.
During that month, which was pretty cool. But we, like, in terms of how much they played it or whatever, I mean, there's not much beyond that. We can see sort of the reviews that we're getting, the emails that we were getting, some of the videos that were online. I don't know about some of the content that you had, or if you saw a boost in the review.
Oh yeah.
During that time period. I know that the video that the guys at On the Links had shot way up. I think they had like the one video of the game, and so all of a sudden this video just, I guess, had like 10 times the views or something that it had before that. So so that was kind of neat. I mean, I think it spiked a couple of different things, which was kind of cool. So after doing that, the game went back on sale. And so we're hoping that there would be maybe like a word of mouth thing from people having played it, since you have to sit down with your friends.
Right.
And I don't know if we really saw anything like that. And what I'm thinking is that some of the iPhone games that I had made back in the day, I used to make iPhone games before making console games and PC games before that. I think we might have spoke about that last time.
Yep,
I'm not
absolutely.
sure. Some of those iPhone games were really not great games, but they did a lot better, I would say, than Swap Fire has done so far. And I've been telling people I think that is because the Wii U was an ebbing tide. And heck, I probably mentioned that last time also. Whereas at the time, the iPhone, when we got into that business, that was a rising tide. And so there's something to be said for being sort of in the harbor when the tide's coming in versus when the tide's going out. So we think that on the Wii U, there was just generally low interest in that platform at the time. When we came out right at the very end, a lot of people were like, hey, why'd you even make the game for that platform? And we talked about that a little bit last time, and also about how long it takes to make a game. So,
absolutely.
I mean, when we applied to be a Wii U developer, the system was just a little over a year old. Sort of after figuring out what to make, and then after executing that and delivering it, that was like a 2.5-year process. And so there was no way for us to know that the Wii U was going to be, replaced by the Switch, I think like 9 months earlier than most consoles. So it was, I think it's nice that they can say it was 2017 from 2012, but it was like November 2012 to like, March of 2017. So, it's really, really a lot less than 5 years that console was around. So looking at all that though, knowing that we were seeing really good comments from people, knowing that the Wii U is an ebbing tide, and knowing that the Switch is really hot, and also the Switch is really prone to these local multiplayer experiences. I mean, even there was a great article about like a guy taking Mario Kart to a bar and just like having people roll up. So that's the type of stuff that we love. We want like people to be next to each other. That said, we're also going to include online play with this, but we announced that we are going to pursue doing a Switch version, not even a Switch version, but a sequel. And I think we said that from the beginning. We want to do a full-on sequel. We're calling it Swapfire Season 2. And so with Swapfire, it's sort of this reality show. So we want to, we're going to have Season 1 and Season 2, Season 3. And, we'll see if we can go beyond that. But because it's sort of a reality TV show, we're going to call them seasons. And we've launched a Kickstarter to more or less prove, because what we did was we took that performance that we had during March, where we became the #2 game on the eShop, only to the most highest rated game of all time. We figured that was a pretty good selling point. It's like, well, Zelda's like the highest rated game of all time, and we were #2 to that. And so we tried to see if we could put together an investor pitch, and we got with a group, and we the pitch went to the board, and the board said, well, this is great. This seems like a good opportunity, but we want to see some more market validation. Are people really interested in buying, like putting down cash for this, right? It's great that you made it free and it became popular, all that, but it really means nothing to us because we're trying to make some money, right? So while we're trying to just make a great game and pay forward all those memories, some of the things that we talked about before, in order for us to really do our job, our best, we want to have some more resources to put into it, right? So like I more or less realized with Swapfire, the first game, that is like the limit of what I can more or less do by myself with a little bit of help. Right. We had Henry Meredith worked incredibly hard on the game too, and I can't thank him enough for the talent that he has and the effort that he put into it. That said, when he came on to work on Swapfire, he was just graduated college. So to put it in perspective, Swapfire 1 we had 5 people that worked on it with us, and it was Vince White, who did like the comic graphics and things like that. Really great comic book artist. He's got a couple of Kickstarters out that he's working on right now, actually. But it was him, and it was a guy named Eric Scott, who actually chipped in a couple of really key things from the art perspective. Adrian Taiso, who did some of the 3D work, and I've worked with him forever. And then it was Henry and myself, who were, Henry just getting rolling, and then myself being a veteran, having developed games for 20 years. But working on Swapfire 1, that's kind of what we could do with like no budget. That's just more or less putting in that 1.5 years that we worked on it, working incredibly hard. Like I think I told you guys, there was weeks that were close to 130 hours. Yep. You're not doing anything other than sleeping a couple of hours here, working on the game. You're probably not taking a shower. I mean, it's crazy what you go through to make, and like that's the quality bar that you can hit, right? With like everything you got. So when you look at a lot of other games, of course, some people would say that the minimum bar that you need to get past is you need to have a team of about 10 pretty talented people that have experience, and you have to have about $1 million budget, really. Like that's sort of where you can hit that mark where people go, oh, that's pretty cool. Or, people will look at that and say that's from a business perspective, I think that's sort of what it might take to wow people, and a lot of people have actually said this, even if you look at something like, it's a mobile game, but you look at Clash of Clans, and that's what they started with. And if you read Game Over, which is a book about Nintendo, all the NES games, even back in the day, those were the types of budgets that they assigned to those titles, and those were 8-bit games. So, when you look at what we put into Swapfire, it was quite a bit for us. Huge risk for my family and I. Know I've got 3 kids now, so driving the minivan and all that stuff. But it was a big risk to take to try to build something out. And the whole time, I think I called it a direction vector. Got this whole thing with vectors. I don't know if I have that book here. I think I tried to do that with you guys last time also. But, it's a direction vector. And it was like, hey, guys, here's this concept that if you shoot somebody, you trade places with them. And we've got this narrative, and it's a cool mechanic and all that stuff. Does this work? Can we have fun with this? And, from the reviews that we saw from the people that really got it, it was like, yes. You can have fun with this for sure. Now what else can we do with it, right? Like, we can craft that environment where you're sitting on the couch and you've got the 4-player split screen and you're screwing your buddies over. All the mechanics are there, and I think people can recognize that those mechanics have a lot of merit, and it's a scalable concept that we can do a lot more with. So that means it's a good direction vector. It's like, hey, this is a good direction to go in. Now we need some magnitude.
Yep.
We need to power it. And convincing people to and like at this point, I feel like we're sort of in the middle. We're like, all right, we've got a group of players that's gotten this now. We've got over 20,000 players, right? But convincing them to, when they've played the first swap fire, to say, hey, give us a little bit of money so that we can now go over here and say, listen, there's a group of people that wants this. And we're sort of wrestling both sides at this point in order to put the proper funding together to make something, I think, that's competitive in the market. People want to see great graphics and all that stuff. But I think the way that we looked at that was, to do that type of stuff, it is very time consuming, very expensive. And, you don't want to make something that's beautiful that sucks. Like, at its core, the way you more want to do it is you want to make something that has a strong core and then make it beautiful. So that's what we're trying to do, I think, with Swapfire Season 2. And then the other part, I think we spoke about why we ended up doing local multiplayer, especially because the original Jam game was networked online multiplayer. But we went local because we wanted people to be sitting next to each other when they experienced it, because those were like the seeds of our best memories, growing up playing games. It wasn't playing, say, Mario Kart online, Mario Kart 8 online. It was playing the original Mario Kart or Mario Kart 64 next to our friends. Those were the memories, at least for us. That's what we remember. That's the fun that we had. And those seem to be the stronger memories, because we played plenty of online games as well. But, they're sort of, I've played probably more matches of, say, Call of Duty, and I loved Call of Duty Black Ops 2 on the Wii U. And I probably played 10 times the number of matches online that I played with my friends, but I don't really remember any of those matches.
Yeah.
I remember all the matches with my friends. I remember each time that they came over, and we, so I think we were trying to create that experience. So that's sort of where we were at with the first one, though. And then with the second one, though, we really want to, we want to add online multiplayer, and we will. And, we want to make it beautiful. So, we don't have that many resources to play with right now. So one of the things that we did do was we showed off that new character, Charlotte, and we brought her to life from the comic book. So if you watch the Kickstarter video, you'll see that. And we actually have a clip of that we'll be sharing, just that segment where she sort of morphs out of the comic book and goes from becoming 2D to 3D. So, that's again is sort of like another direction vector. It's like, look what we can do. We've got this, it used to be black and white, and now we've got some full color stuff that we're doing. That was actually a purposeful decision as well. Unfortunately, on the first one, I think was a mistake. As we were working on this stuff, I said, Vince, it's kind of cool to go black and white. It's different. Everybody's got full color, beautiful art. Every game looks good. So why don't we do something different just to catch people's attention? I think we probably caught the wrong type of attention with that. So after I went back, I was like, that was a mistake. What are you going to do? So now, though, we are definitely scaling that up. And I think the way that model turned out, sort of like beyond my expectations. I was like, listen, I just want to show a nice 3D model. Like, instead of, we have these sort of generic-y characters in the first one and stuff like that, that look different from like the box art. And that was just, we were limited on our resources. And so we did that. And then it's funny because it's almost like back in the day when you had a Nintendo game and had this beautiful box art, and then you got it and it was like these, these little pixelated blobs, and you're like, wait a minute, that's supposed to be that? And that's sort of what we ended up doing. We've got this cool box art, and it's like, wait, there's the characters, and okay, they're 3D, but you can tell that they're sort of a generic just replacement or
Yeah.
like template for those other characters. So
Yeah, player 1, player 2, player 3.
Yeah, exactly. And we did like we're probably going to stick with the red, green, blue, yellow thing just because that's fun. But I think we'll actually go further than that, and we actually want to flesh these characters out. And some people are actually asking us now, are they going to have different abilities and things like that? We were already talking about
Awesome.
that type of stuff, like adding that layer of a little bit more depth and things. It's fun. I mean, even in Super Mario Kart, the karts have different capabilities and speeds and accelerations and things like that. So thinking, it's more of a party game. We're not trying to make like a super deep RPG type thing. But even looking at some of the party games that are out there, you have that, and you can sort of make that choice for yourself. So then you can dress them up a little bit, put them in the colored uniform that they have, and I think we'd like to do something like that. And looking at Charlotte now we're going, okay, we want to bring the other character's name is going to be named Hudson. We're going to bring him to life as well and bring Jeeves off. So I don't know if you saw, we added a $250 prize to the Kickstarter today.
I did see that. Yep.
So because we just wanted to show, hey, we're gonna have cool looking 3D models in Swapfire Season 2, and then all of a sudden people were like, that kind of looks like an amiibo.
Yep.
We're like, oh damn, okay, yeah, sure, an amiibo. Why not? We'd love to do that. And so it got us thinking in that direction. So it would be cool if anybody is out there and wants figurines. What we'd like to do is, it's gonna have the backdrop from the comic, but then up front, you'll have the 3 characters. So, pretty excited about that.
It's very cool. I love what you did with Charlotte, and that's actually one of the questions we have for later on. Later on in the show, we'll talk about those. But I think the character models look great, and they look, and you'll appreciate this being the person you are. They look very Nintendo.
Yes.
Like they look like a character that would fit in the world. That you look like the Splatoon kids. You look at some of the characters you see in ARMS. And I saw Charlotte today, and I was like, that does look like an amiibo. That looks something that could be put out by Nintendo. So I'm so happy you guys are kind of fleshing those characters out as opposed to the generic player 1, player 2 models that you had in the first one. But
yeah.
I think it's definitely the right way to go. And Charlotte looks fantastic. So I can't wait to see the others.
Thank you.
How they flash out.
Yeah, we're super excited. I mean, super excited about that.
So, all right. So you mentioned that was one of the prizes for Kickstarter. So talking about the Kickstarter, what are some of the different rewards people can get for backing the project?
So we have everything from, we will pin one of your tweets to the Swapfire Twitter account, or we could do multiple Twitter accounts because we got a bunch of them that are pretty popular. But we have all the way up to what we call the Pixel Fest penthouse. So you can see I'm wearing my Pixel Fest shirt. This is the 2017. It's got this like monochrome matrix thing on the back. I'll have to show you a picture of it sometime. But that would be, we will fly you to Norfolk, Virginia for Pixel Fest 2018 from anywhere in the world, put you up in like the nicest hotel, take you out to dinner, and give you like your own dedicated space, like the type of space that nobody else at Pixel Fest will have. And I think there's a couple other things included with it, but basically it's like, come on to Norfolk, Virginia for Pixel Fest. And that's like our big, huge prize. So if somebody wants to just go ahead and fund the whole Kickstarter right now,
yeah, right. Please,
we'll bring you into town. Yeah. So if there are any whales out there that have $5,000 to drop, come on down. I think that's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
So,
especially if you look at it, there's another independent developer that maybe has had a couple more titles out there. It might be a little bit more established. You look at that, a $5,000 investment, you're investing in another company, and you get prime real estate in Pixel Fest. That's not necessarily a bad thing, not at all.
Yeah, no, we grew Pixel Fest this year by 20%. So we had almost 5,500 people. Last year we had 4,655, and this year we had 5,429. So it was a pretty good jump.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to be expanding it next year. I think we're actually going to start taking over another space because we're in like a 7-story library, and then there's a space next to that. So we'll see. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Who knows? But nevertheless, yeah, if you go to like Penny Arcade Expo, say, or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Granted, a lot more people, but one of the things we've noticed from going to bigger conventions, like say going to MagFest or something like, or PAX. We went to SmashCon this year also. But when you go to these things, there's really only so many people you can have come play your game anyway.
Yep.
So it's like, it's just because there's 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 people there. It's not like you're getting all 100,000 of those people. There's only so many people you can service. So even at a con with 5,000 to 10,000 people, you're going to be busy the whole time, no matter what. So I guess there's maybe like diminishing returns on that. and people will pay, I think, $5,000 to be at PAX.
Oh yeah, easily.
You know, that's what you pay minimum to get in there if you're an indie, right? So, you know, our indie booths were like $50, you know, and we had like 5,500 people. So, and they were busy the whole time. I mean, it was nonstop. So, yeah, I think that could work out good for somebody. But, you know, getting, you know, to the more tangible prizes and you know, more applicable to most people. You know, we've got the digital soundtrack at $10. So that's just you know, I think we're gonna have some pretty cool music for sure. And you know, even if you're not gonna be a huge fan of the game, or you don't like FPSs, or you know, whatever, for whatever reason you don't actually want the full game, you're gonna enjoy the soundtrack, and we're gonna put together some really good arrangement. So, and a couple of people have already picked that up, which is cool. At $25, that's where you'll get the game. Your name will go into the credits. Obviously, you'll get the soundtrack along with that, the digital soundtrack, and you'll also get your pinned tweet, because all the rewards are cascading, right? So you get everything else. We go up from there to the $40 level, and that's where we have the digital package. That's where you'll have, I believe, yeah. So that's where you'll get like a wallpaper, and there's a couple of other pieces with that. I'm trying to think what they are. The digital comic.
A screensaver.
Screensaver, yeah. And then at the $50 level, we'll toss in over and above that, like the original Game Jam game, which was something that we were trying not to show people right away, because it's a sort of a radical departure from what Swapfire is now. You know, Swapfire is this sort of bubbly, fun game show. You know, we went with this sort of kooky theme. We wanted to, I think the way that we talked about it last time, where there are a lot of old games that were really cheesy, and like they were sort of unintentionally funny, and that was the stuff that my friends and I, anyway, enjoyed growing up. You know, if you play something like Final Fight, or like we played Final Fight 3 a couple of years back, and we didn't even play that growing up, but we were playing it now, and we were like, oh, it's so cheesy, but that's what makes it funny. You know, that's what makes it fun. Oh yeah. And so there's some of that cheese factor in Swapfire, and so if you go back and play the original Jam game, then you'll see this super dark, depressing. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's what I wanted to get away from, but at the same time, I don't mind. At this point, we got the first game out there. We've got the narrative established. So, you know, you want to see where it came from. Here's where it came from. And I think it's interesting, because that's going to be this big juxtaposition on the narrative, which was what stopped me from working on the first game in the first place, because I didn't, you know. So but the Jam game is okay, though. I mean, if it had gone off in that direction, we would have had to make it what it was, and go very dark, and go very, you know, deep, and I don't know. So that's at $50. Then we've got the T-shirt. We'll kick in a T-shirt at $60. That was $75. So I
thought that was $75 before. I noticed that change.
We put an announcement out. Basically, a guy Thomas came to us today and was like, "Hey man, I really want the T-shirt, but like $75, it's a lot of money." Basically, and he was like, "What, you know?" And I was like, "You know, we have no backers for the T-shirt prize." I was like, "Would you pay $60 for it?" He's like, "Yeah, deal, done." It's like, okay. So we made the T-shirt prize $60 because we had no backers for it. So it obviously was too expensive, and so he jumped on right away. And I think we wanted to encourage some of the other backers, if they were thinking about the T-shirt and they just said, "Dude, $75 is way too much for me with this stuff to get a T-shirt." We took that down $15, so that's at $60 now. At $100, and we're really excited about this. We want to put together like a full-length documentary on the whole process, starting with that Jam game. The development of the first game. I mean, building Pixel Fest, which was part of it. I think just cover the story of going from that Jam game to going all the way up to doing the game for the Switch. Because it's been a process, and I think that there'll be a lot there for anybody that's just interested in behind the scenes type of stuff. I think I actually released some of the green screen. I don't know if you saw the green screen stuff that we released.
Yeah,
but it was like, so to do the Kickstarter. I think there's actually a game in this, but like trying to get good enough at doing the script so you could do it in one take without screwing it up is quite a challenge, and it's also a lot of fun. And it was sort of like Guitar Hero. So, we were like, well, if all else fails, we'll make a game about that. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff like that we wanted to bring out. And I know growing up, I just thrived on watching these behind the scenes of everything. Yeah. I wanted to watch. I mean, it didn't matter if it was a game, I watched it. a movie. I mean, like one of the ones for some reason that always comes back to me is the first Beauty and the Beast from 1991, the cartoon.
Mhm.
It was one of the first movies where they talked a lot about the CG and the 3D, and
Yep.
it's like I was just going gaga at the time over like Mode 7 and 3D and all this stuff. And so to watch how they did like the ballroom scene and everything, that's something that stuck with me for a long time. And there were a lot of other movies and video games and all sorts of media where you watch that and you're like, wow, that's something I think that's enjoyable that we'd like to put together and just sort of archive that. Like, here's the creative process on this game, because I think also Swapfire is the type of game that, there's a big debate a number of years back about like the art of video games, whether is it an art or is it just just sort of this industrial design thing where you're trying to sell the product. And I think it can be both, and I think with Swapfire, it's definitely more of an art. It's definitely something where every life lesson that I learned from some game prior in the past affected a decision, and not from a business perspective, but more from a moral, creative type of standpoint. Like, I did that with this game, but really, even if it made money, it just didn't feel that good, and there's sometimes like that. And I can tell you, I think it is really difficult to make something you're proud of and make money with it at the same time. This is something that, and I've had this discussion with other, creators and things like that. And I mean, you'll see some articles or some things that you read, they'll say, well, the games that you make the most money on are like the really super generic-y ones, or like the clones, those types of things. Just make like a blackjack game or like a card game or something like that. You'll make more money than if you try to come up with something, radically new and creative and stuff. But at the same time, it really looks like when you make something radically creative and something new and you actually establish that new IP, like that's the big victory. Like if you can sort of put those together. So I think that's what we'd like to accomplish with Swapfire. It's like, hey, this is different. And it's, this is not a clone. This is the result of many vectors being added up, many different influences and things like that. And we want to make that work and also make it commercially successful, because you can't keep going and you can't make better art unless you're commercially successful. So, that has to be a part of it. So anyway, that's the documentary. At the $150 level, we have the physical package, and we actually have a number of backers there. So we're really, really excited about that. And we're so thankful to have fans that would come, and bring that to the table. The more, doing this Kickstarter has made me think more, I think, about the idea of building something that people want enough for them to actually be considered fans and like fanatics of the product. And like, okay, we have a responsibility now, but like in a good way, to people who really appreciate this and really like it. So, the physical package that will come with a comic, full printed physical comic, and I actually have, check this out, so I can give you a little bit of an idea of what that will be, because give another shout out to Vince here. But so this is Willpower 1, I think. Is it 1?
Yep, number 1.
Yeah, it's Willpower 1. So this is and this book is color cover, and then it's black and white on the inside. But this is a book. I guess it's the first book that Vince did. So you will get something like this when you do the physical package. It's a nice book, and he's got a bunch of others. Really, really, really super nice. You also get a poster and a physical CD. And all that stuff will be signed by us. So, when Swapfire finally becomes that big hit we all know it can be, you can look back and you can say, I made that happen.
Yep.
All right. I made that, I made that thing happen. So, it's, I think with this Kickstarter and with what we're doing, the people backing it are just as much a factor in making this come true and making this become real, as we are at this point. I mean, and in fact, it's really sort of beyond our hands. I mean, we worked as hard as we could to bring it to fruition, get it out for Wii U and all this stuff. But I mean, at this point, it is literally like, all right, here's this thing we're trying to give, a gift, or like you're supposed to find your talent or find your gift and give it to the world type of thing. And we worked incredibly hard to do what we did. It, like I said, maybe a drop in the bucket to some of the other big AAA games, because we're in the console space now, so it's much more competitive. But we have this feeling that we want to give this to people. We want people to enjoy this, and so now the backers are incredibly, and our fans are just incredibly important. It's a symbiotic thing. right? You know, and we'll work as hard as we can to make the most fun thing we can possibly make. But you know, having backers at that level is incredible. So we're thankful for that, and we look forward to putting stuff like that together. So at the $200 level, this is where we start to bring people into the game. So the selfie texture, which we can't wait to put somebody in the game. You know, and I think there's gonna be a lot of interesting places where you can place your mugshot. So, you know, whether that's on a TV or on a painting, or it could be in a body of water. It could be, there's gonna be so many places where it could be, and I think we'll get really creative with, and it's the type of thing where there could be an achievement, you know, like spot all the selfie textures or something like that. So I think we'll have a lot of fun with that. I think we mentioned earlier in this live broadcast that there's now a $250 prize that wasn't there before. So it's all that stuff, everything that we mentioned, plus you will get like this diorama or this, you know, you'll have the background from the original comic book, and you will have the 3D printed figurines of Charlotte, Hudson, and Jeeves. And I think that will more or less act like a prototype if we are successful. If we can pull the financials together, those will be like prototypes for the Amiibo. And I think that those will be, you know, if we're successful, those will be a really big deal. I think
awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah. So then we jump from 250 to 500. Now at 500, that's where you will be in the game as a caricature talking to Jeeves. So it's called the talking head. So, you know, we have the cutscenes where like Jeeves and Mags and Justin are, you know, they're rapping back and forth. So we will put, you know, I forgot how many people we said, but like 10 or 20 players will, I think it was 10 people, right? Will actually be in there, and we'll get to banter back and forth. So we'll create a game version of you, your talking head to put in the game. So if you want to be immortalized in the game, we try to give you something entertaining to say, then, you know, that you'll be at that level. And then we have, so we're getting to really the high-end prizes, but I think there's actually a market for this. At the $1,000 level, this is where we will sit down with you, and we will put together a game type for the multiplayer. And we're going to have a new cup, because, you know, we have the Quantum Cup and we have like the Galactic Cup and all that stuff. We're going to have the Fan Cup. And so the Fan Cup will be like, if you have a game mode that you want us to create using the swap mechanic, we will build it. And this will be your design. So one of the ways that we're pitching it is, you know, for anybody that is sort of wants to get into game dev and they want to have something to say, I did that, and it's going to be in a console, you know, professional game. And it's not just, you know, hey, go download this off of my website. Like, no, literally go to your Nintendo Switch and play this mode. That's my mode, right? So we will put that together. And I think there's precedence for this. One of the things that we looked at, I guess, in like Undertale, there was a reward for somebody one person designed a character that became part of the story, part of the canon. And so, you know, and it just gives you the groundwork for that to build off of that. So if you're somebody who's thinking about jumping into game dev and you want to have a jumping off point, you know, you can jump right in here and you can have a mode and you can say, that's my mode. When your friends come over, you can say, yeah, let's play the Fan Cup. Let's play my mode. I designed that. That's me. It's all me. Right. So, you know, that would be cool. I think, you know, when I was younger, had I been wealthy, that's something that I would definitely jump on, right? Totally. Had I had any money at all, right? That would have been good. So, you know, and we already talked about the Pixel Fest Penthouse. So that's the 5,000. Like, if you're just going to take care of this whole Kickstarter, then come on into town. We'll put you up for Pixel Fest and give you a space, and you can do something really cool with that space. There will be plenty of people there to see. So yeah, if you're, like Kevin said, if you're an indie game dev and you want to have your own space to show off your own game, you know, come on aboard, you know. So
yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I mean, guys, the Kickstarter is live now. They got just over $1,000, I believe.
It's like 11:35 the last time I looked at it, I think, something like that.
Yep, 11:35 currently. There's 9 days left to go as we're recording this. So if you're listening via podcast, you probably have about a week left. The Kickstarter does end on June 9th around 7 p.m. Eastern time, just a little bit after that. But you know what? Don't wait. Why do you need to know when it ends when really you should be backing this right now. You mentioned that the $25 level will get you the game, get you the pin tweet, everything else, the soundtrack. In my mind, nobody should be pitching less than that. Get the game. Why wouldn't you want to get the game? That's going to be the highlight of this whole thing. So, put down at least the $25, dig through mom and dad's couch cushions, break that piggy bank and back it. I mean, this guy's literally living our childhood dreams for most of you listeners out there right now, making his vision a reality. Every kid sitting there like, oh, want to make a video game that does X, Y, and Z. And okay, Jeremy's actually doing it. So, and he's done it. So he's got a track record there. It's going to be awesome. If you played the first one, the potential is there. And I mean, we've only, just talked a little bit about what SWAPfire 2 is going to have. And already he's raising the bar big time. So, it's not the situation where you have your EAs, your Bethesdas that have these giant bankrolls that can afford to just, pump out game year after year after year. This is a labor of love here. And if you listen to the first podcast, he told his whole backstory then in that one on how it's a passion project. And now it's something that's a reality. And he saw, success with the first one, 20,000 players. Yep. Some of them had played it for free, unfortunately. We'd love to see him pay for it, but, you got to start somewhere. So the groundwork is there. You said it's all there. So it's just a matter of making it better, releasing to a bigger audience and getting people to put the money up on it. And you're only asking for $5,000. That's not a lot of money in the big scheme of things. And you can get in the ground floor very easily, or you can do something really cool and develop your own game mode for $1,000. So if you got the money, head over to Kickstarter now. Just sign up, make the donation there. And it's as simple as that. And make this dream a reality, because this is, I'll tell you, if you go on the website and you view the first review there, it was good. Like, yes, the game only got a 75, but that's not a bad thing. 75 is a good game. But the exact quote that I gave it, and if you're an old school gamer, you'll remember, I described it as it's GoldenEye, met and fell in love with Portal, then they had a little baby that was kind of like Smash Brothers, and that's what SWAPfire was. It's insanity. It's couch co-op at its greatness. You sit there and jab your elbows into your buddy next to you as you swapping plays with it, because it's a lot of fun. It really is, and it was just an unfortunate chain of events that it came out when it did because of the situation of the Wii U, which is no fault of your own or of the games. It's just the cycle of what Nintendo had done there, and it just didn't all line up there. But now is the opportunity. We've seen the Switch sales already outpacing well above what the Wii U did, and they're saying it's pacing better than what the Wii did originally. So that's a lot of hands that could get their sweaty little palms on SWAPfire Season 2. But so let's talk about a couple of things. So before we jump into I have some listener questions if you want to answer some of those. But
yeah,
one question I have, we had mentioned when we talked to you last time about, hey, is there thoughts of SWAPfire, 2, or at the time it was called just 2, wasn't Season 2 yet. You hadn't made the formal announcement that, were you going to want to bring it to Switch? And you said yes, but Nintendo really wasn't open to it, or they weren't talking to a lot of indie developers. So what's changed since then that got you to at least get your foot in the door to make this, a reality?
I would say that basically what happened with that giveaway, if you can't switch them, swap them giveaway, that was something that took a long time to set up with Nintendo. That was not just us going, hey, we're going to make it free. We talked to them. We worked very closely with them on the marketing for that particular campaign and all of that. And there was, it was all done in good faith. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of done in good faith that we would keep this as a Nintendo exclusive game and things like that. So we got to form a deeper relationship. And I would say that moment right there is when we said, okay, this is where it will continue. Right. We didn't know if that was going to happen or not. It took months, like I said, to set that up. You wouldn't think, but that was not an easy thing to set up. So, not something that they do typically. I don't know if it's ever happened before. That's really where it happened. When that happened and when the game jumped, that's where we said, okay, we've got to do, it's like we're obligated to do this almost, but that's where we knew, okay, we're going to go to the Switch and, we're going to have this audience and we'll be able to pitch a group of, investors. And, the thing of it is we're in it's sort of like the perfect alignment of things, because we're in this area. We talked so much, I think, about Norfolk the last time that we were here. How this is a great place to be right now. So yep. Being in Norfolk, Virginia right now is, I imagine it's got to be very similar to being in a lot of different cities that have had, booms at certain points, certain times. But there has been just a lot of entrepreneurial activity here over the last 5 years. And so the group that, we're working with, they're really, I guess, like the first group that stepped forward and said, all right, we're going to start now putting some money into some of these entrepreneurial endeavors. And so this is the combination of us doing something that is big and international, the type of business that can scale with Nintendo and with video games if we can make it successful. So on the business side, this at least has the potential to be big and something that can help our region grow. And so that's why we got to look. And we've done a lot of other things locally, like Pixel Fest has been very good here, and we've got a software or an app called Tunnel Traffic that we developed that helps people regulate the traffic on these tunnels. We have a very waterlogged region, so a lot of people use that. And so I think it's just we're in a very unique situation where we're doing something like this that could be. It has the potential, at least there's a probability that this could be a big thing. And then we've got a lot of local support. And so what we want to try to do is get our local support behind it. And that's the group of investors that we're talking to. We finally have a group of investors. So this entrepreneurial stuff's been going on for a long time. And there really hasn't been, nobody really stepped up to the plate in terms of putting the capital in place.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally this group stepped up and said, okay, we're going to start putting the capital into these things, like when there are good opportunities. But they're going to make you work like a dog for it. I mean, it's not going to be, they're not just going to, throw this money behind anything. And so it's very important for us to prove that what we're offering, what we're bringing to the table is an opportunity. And the Kickstarter, for us, we're asking for $5,000, but we're only doing a 2-week Kickstarter. Most Kickstarters are a month or 60 days. We did a short one. We said, listen, if we can get awareness, because it's very hard on the internet to get enough awareness for something. If we can get awareness and we can do it that quickly, if we can do it in 2 weeks, that proves that we do have a dedicated audience and we can raise this kind of money quickly. So if we can get $5,000 quickly, that would be a good indicator of market validation for the investors. And so that's what we're going to try to approach. And then we're going to we want to combine that with, the player base that we have. Now, because of the way things work, and we don't have everybody's email address or anything like that bought the game. So it's a little different than some businesses where, say if you're like Facebook or something like that, you've got everybody's email address, you're holding on to them.
Yeah.
So with this business, we are like one level behind. Like I said, we don't have direct access to all 20,000 or 23,000 people that got the game or whatever. But we know that those people are out there. So if we're advertising on Facebook, or if we're talking to you guys, if you're out there and you got the game for free, obviously worked really hard for that. Now we want to do more. We want to do more artistically. We want to do more so you have more fun. But in order to do that, we do need to put some investment behind it, right? So if we can do that in 2 weeks and we can raise a good amount of money, this is going to be something that they look at favorably and they go, okay, there's something real there. All right. That's market validation. And so I think it's very simple. We're obviously not planning to build SwapFire 2 with $5,000.
Right.
So, that's not our intention. Their intention is just to prove that people want this game and they're willing to part with their cash, and it's a whole other ball game when people pledge or when people pay for something, especially something that's a year out, that means something. And I can say we did a Twitter poll before this because we weren't even sure if we're going to do the Kickstarter. We're like, how are we even going to do this? Like, how do you even get more market validation than what we did with the giveaway, right? Like, we were number 2 to this, the most highest rated game of all time. That's great market validation, right? Well, that wasn't enough. So now what do we do? Okay, so we put a Twitter poll up and we said, hey, would you guys, back a Kickstarter for this? And we let that poll run for like a week or something. And so like 82 people said they would back it if it came out. And, the funny thing is, as far as we can tell on Twitter, just from the statistics and things, I think only like 1 or 2 people from Twitter actually backed it. So we went from 82 people on a poll with no skin in the game saying, yeah, sure, I backed that, to like 2 people. And so it just goes to show you that real market validation involves the exchange of money. That is the deciding factor as to whether something's important enough to make the cut. Now, obviously, we work very hard on SwapFire. We love it. I mean, we love this game. We love the characters. We love the mechanic. We love where we think this can go. I mean, I think one of the things I said last time was as the creators of the game, we see it for what it can be, not for what it is. Everybody else sees it for what it is, and there's a big delta between what it can be and what it is right now. We want to make it what it can be, and we want to take it all the way. But now we have to work very hard with, to prove that it's worthy of doing that. And that involves us getting out, answering these questions, convincing people like, hey, this game's going to be, the most fun you've ever had. It's going to look gorgeous. You're going to be able to play it online. We're going to do more surprising things like we did with Rosen. Did you see the stuff with Rosen?
Yep.
Not such a surprise now, but when it happened, it was a surprise, and people love that. We're going to do these kind of special things, and we're going to make sure you have a good time when you play the game, and that's what we want to do. We want to pay forward those memories we had growing up. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to pick up the baton and like keep running with it, right?
Yep.
So we want to do that, and but yeah, there's a big difference between I'll buy it or I'll back it or whatever, and like, okay, here's my money, and that's really the deciding factor. So a real vote of confidence, or a real vote saying this thing is going to go forward and live and not become extinct or whatever, is the money. Bam, there's the money. We take that money and we go to some people that have a lot more money, and you're going to get something a lot better than what you got with Swapfire 1. And I think a lot of people had a good time with the first Swapfire, because I think we brought the heart along with it.
Absolutely.
But there's plenty of people like, hey, the graphics sucked, or this, that, and the other thing, and what are you gonna do? That stuff costs time and energy and money. So we can make a beautiful game. Though we got the guy. I mean, talking about Charlotte. So this is a great story. I'm keeping this guy's secret. He's our secret weapon. I met him 5 years ago. I was hanging out. I'm not even going to say where I was because I could give him away. No, actually, I can say where I was because I've already said he's an ex-epic artist. So I got to have a few beers with this guy at a bar in Raleigh, North Carolina, like 5 years ago. And, he's showing me some of the stuff he's making. And I could tell from some of the stuff that he was making, like, it wasn't even like the stuff he was making professionally. He had stuff that he was just making because he just loves what he does.
Mm-hmm.
But I could tell from that he was also a Nintendo fan. And I think that's why you can see the look that she has, and he was able to do that. I could also tell the guy was insanely talented. And so everything was lined up. It's like loves Nintendo, insanely talented, super just passionate about what he's doing. And so I went to him, just off a whim, and I was like, hey, we need some 3D real quick. And I know you're the guy to do it. Do you have the time right now? Are the stars going to align for this to happen?
Yeah.
And they did. So that was a good sign to me because, you go to somebody out of the blue like that. You don't know what's going to happen, right? So, he wants to do more. We want to try to there are more people that we can bring on like that. And all we have to do is put the budget in place to do it. So it can be done, and the visuals can be done. All that stuff can be done. And that tight integration into the gameplay can all be done. At this point for us, it's just a matter of, funding it, making it, to make that a reality. And at this point, it is much more than us. There's only so much as an individual creator you can bring to the table. I think that's, truly when you see anybody on stage performing and thanking their fans, they mean it because, literally it's this symbiotic relationship, and they don't get to eat if these people don't love what they're doing, and it's like, at this point now, yes, we want to make this for people, and we just want to connect and find the people, that appreciate this thing that we want to give them, that we're making. So, which I think is something that we said to when we were making the first game. We're like, we're making this thing, and there's going to be some people that just hate it. There's going to be some people that are whatever, take it or leave it, and then there's going to be those people, and there's going to be plenty of them that love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this thing. I'm picturing Cerebro in X-Men where, Professor X is like searching the globe, trying to find all the mutants. These are all the people part of this group. And so we're just trying to find all those people that love what Swapfire is, what the mechanics are about, the kooky story, all that stuff. There's a certain combination, factors that make up Swapfire. And we're looking for all the people that love that, and there's plenty of them. We've gotten so many good comments. I mean, the people that love it, they really love it. And it's kind of funny because one of the Guy Kawasaki has a great quote. I think he said something to the effect of great products polarize people. And so, that I think that says something, because we've seen, I think on the first game, we definitely saw some people that were in the middle, kind of like, hey, this is a good game, a little rough around the edges or whatever. It's an indie game. But we also saw the other sides. We saw people that loved it, like loved it. And we also saw people that just, totally didn't get it and made no sense to them. And so there was a polarizing effect, which to me was a signal that we were doing the right thing. Like, all right, this means we're actually doing something good, because we're going to find all those people around the globe that love this concept. And we're going to just make it as good as it can possibly be, for what it is.
All right, cool. So let's jump into some listener questions we had out here. So if there's anything you don't want to answer, don't feel like you have to. Just simply say pass or no comment for now, because some things might be spoilers, but they still wanted to ask, so I'll pass it along. So some of the stuff you've already talked about, a lot of people commenting on the artwork. They love the cover and the poster that's out there already of the cover of what Swapfire Season 2 will look like. And you've kind of already answered this a little bit with Charlotte, but the artwork is there. Is that actually what you want the character models to be, or would they resemble more of what the first game did?
No. So that character model is a model that we can bring into the game. Yeah. I mean, the imagery that you're seeing is a render, like out of 3D Max.
Right.
But that is a model that we can bring right into the game engine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any plans for a story mode or more of a single player campaign, as well as the multiplayer and couch co-op stuff?
Yes, definitely want to expand on what we started. You can see, I think a lot of people, when they played the original tutorial, they're like, what is this? What is this voice talking to me?
Yep.
And then what we saw, like on Miiverse, people going back and being like, oh, he said this and he said this. And like after they found Rosen's Island, a lot of things I think started to click together. And there's a whole story that goes along with that we were trying to tell. You can tell from the cover art, I think, that there's actually a little bit of danger to this, what's going on. It's not, and I think people knew that up front with Swapfire. It's not all hunky-dory, right? It's not just the game show. There's a deeper thing going on to this. Ripping holes in space-time is probably not
a good idea for
just a great idea. Yeah. So there's definitely so much more we want to do with that. And the second game will certainly expand upon what we did on the first game. Exactly how much we'll get to expand on it, beyond certainly having more of it and having it all look better. I think that's going to be the tricky part in terms of what we're able to do with the story. But I think we'll be able to expand on it quite a bit. I'd like to have quite a bit more gameplay there. I mean, there's more prototypes and things that we developed for the first game, but as we were like the run up to the end, when we were developing that stuff, we had to put a lot of prototyping aside, and we just say what actually fits for what we're doing.
Right.
And what fit was to introduce this idea of the story. We've got this character Rosen who's talking to you through this tile. Is an AI, and obviously if you found the secret, you found out there's more to it than that. But we wanted to have that sort of single player puzzly thing going on, but at the same time it had to serve a purpose, and its purpose was to teach you the game, because the truth be told, the mechanics are quite different. And it's some of the feedback that we got on the first one was like we didn't do a good enough job of explaining the mechanics during the multiplayer. Some people hated the fact that they had to play the tutorial to really learn the mechanics. And so that said, we needed that in the first game, because I think it's a pretty different game in terms of the mechanics. I think coming into the multiplayer, you're not going to know what's going on. And I don't know how good of a job we could have done in the multiplayer of teaching you while you're playing, competitive multiplayer. So we've got the tutorial there. It serves that purpose. It also serves up the purpose of the narrative and the story, and really want to do a lot more with that. And one of the things that we want to do, I don't know if it'll happen in the second game or not, is we prototyped this, but we wanted to actually have multiplayer in the puzzle solving environment as well.
Okay.
So like true couch co-op, because I was thinking about this today. We use the term, I like the term couch co-op because it's short and it's sweet. Not a lot of syllables, which is great. But to me, when I hear co-op, I'm thinking we're solving problems together, versus if you just say multiplayer, well, it could be co-op or it could be competitive. And Swapfire is certainly more of a competitive game in terms of its multiplayer than one that you play cooperatively. But we would like to do some real co-op puzzle solving type stuff, and there we had some puzzles that were working like that that we started to experiment with. We had this one crazy mode where we had something called the cruncher that would actually like build the environment dynamically while you were playing it. And this is probably one of the more fun things that we developed, that we just said, okay, it's almost too unhinged is almost what it was, right? It was like too raw, and we had to figure out, well, how do we make this so, you know, first of all, we're not going to crash somebody's system when they make a huge level and all this stuff. But it was actually a lot of fun. People would like jump and like ride on the cruncher, and then the cruncher would go and like make the level and could sort of eat pieces of it, and it was kind of crazy. But there was all sorts of creative stuff that came up that we had to shelve and just say, okay, well, we can't do that right now. We need this structure, and it needs to fit. And so that's what the first game ended up being. But definitely, yeah, more single player for sure. I mean,
cool.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? So we know, the game is primarily done in first person. Any thoughts towards third person point of view at any point for Swap Player 2?
Yeah, we experimented with third person and decided that the character models and art that we had sucked too bad to do third person. So this was a meeting. Vince was there, Henry was there, I was there. We're all playing the game, and Vince is having a really hard time. This is really early in the game's dev cycle, but he is like, man, I am just not good at first person games, and this is a really cool concept. I want to play it in third person though. What do you think, man? So I prototyped something up, and we played it, and it's like, dude, look at how stiff this character looks from this perspective. Like, I don't think we can do it this time. I said, if we had higher quality stuff, I think we could do it. And so, yeah, it was one of those things where you just said, the art and the stuff that we have is just not good enough to really support that. If you're going to do third person, you have to have really great characters. And so, and you know what, the characters have to be great. The animation has to be great. The camera work has to be great. And I've done third person games, and the third person camera work is a whole other ball game. And Swapfire probably has some of the most complex first person camera work, and I'm sure nobody realizes it at all, how much time it took to do this because of did I explain this last time?
I don't think so. No, we didn't talk so much about cameras.
In Swapfire, there's a steady beam going from the gun, right?
Yeah.
So in most first-person shooters, when you see the gun image in the first-person view, that coming out of the camera,
yeah,
that is normally a totally separate image and is not the actual 3D model that you're controlling. That's usually something that's just slapped to the camera to make it look like the gun is there, but it's not the actual gun that other people see when they look at your character, right? There's a good article on Kotaku a couple of months ago about the trials and tribulations of game development. And it comes from the perspective of somebody who was in the gaming press, who used to rip games a new one when he didn't think they were good enough, and then he got into game dev and said, whoa, this is so much harder than I thought it was. And he talks about that. But in Swapfire, the gun that you see in the first-person view is the gun that the other players see, and we did that because that continuous beam, right? So when you have a gun that's just firing some invisible projectile, which is normally like a raycaster line pick in the universe, yeah, it doesn't matter. There doesn't have to be that connectivity to what the animation to what you're seeing. But in Swapfire, the gun has to be pointing at the same thing, and
right.
The beam has to be connected to that, and that has to be connected to the character animation. So we have actually a fairly complex, and inverse kinematics is one of the things that we used in Swapfire to make sure that the player's sort of looking at where the player's looking. The player wants to look somewhere, and then the whole character model animates to look at that point dynamically. It's actually the gun aligns, and then the character aligns to the gun. But yeah, we actually have an incredibly complex, and you don't realize it. I don't think it's not something you normally think about. You normally think, well, it's like a camera with like a reticule, and you also notice that in Swapfire, the reticule sort of traverses the 3D environment.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's already complicated, but it's sort of neither here nor there. Doing third person, it required a little bit more than what we had with the first game, mostly in terms of the visuals and having, we didn't think our characters were really there, and so we sort of stayed away from it. Definitely a possibility with the second game. There's been a lot of people who have requested it, and as long as we hit that quality bar with our characters where we feel like these characters are good enough to look at all the time, then yeah, we would make that. I think we would make that leap. There's been a lot of interest in that, and I think with like Splatoon, in particular on Nintendo platforms,
Sure.
people really like that third person perspective in Splatoon. In Splatoon, obviously, it makes tremendous amount of sense because you have to see your character going in the ink and all that stuff. So mechanically, I think it makes a lot of sense for that game. We'll have to see how it plays out in Swapfire. When we did that prototype, it worked mechanically. It really was just a visual thing and sort of saying, okay, we're not quite there yet.
So we'll take that as a maybe.
Yeah, it's a definite maybe. Hopefully leaning yes if we can. And I think if we put the quality together on the art and animation, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that.
Awesome. All right, we'll have a couple more here. For those people that are backing Swapfire Season 2 that did not get to play Swapfire on the Wii U, whether they traded it in, they didn't have a Wii U, they're just jumping back into Nintendo with the success of the Switch, what advice would you give to newcomers to get the most out of their Swapfire experience?
So yeah, it's something I've wrestled with a little bit, and I don't think I have a perfectly clear answer as to how to help them sort of like maintain the narrative parity, and like, stay on board. Obviously, there's a ton of YouTube content. I think you can watch everything, from start to finish if you wanted to. But, also, I guess, we wanted to keep the first game just on the Wii U because it was so tied to the hardware. That said, there's no reason why, other than there's a couple of reasons, but no really big reasons, I guess, why the game could not be at some point ported to where people will be able to get it on another platform.
Right.
But we're not going to leave people behind. I mean, it's not going to be like if you didn't play the first game, you're not going to get the second game. If there are any narrative things, I'm sure what we'll do is we'll have flashbacks so that we make sure you sort of understood what happened in the first game from a narrative perspective, which would be the thing I'd probably most be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the mechanics and everything like that, I think in the second game, everything should only become easier to understand how it works and why it works that way. We'll have more time, and we've built up a language, like an internal language, as to how to communicate these things to people after having watched so many people play the game while we were developing the first one, and understanding what works and what doesn't, what loses people and what doesn't. So I think the second game will be easier for people to learn how to play anyway, and
Sure.
It should be easier to play. We'll guide people in there a little bit more gently, and because we should have more time and resources to do that. And then on the narrative front, yeah, it would be great though if people can go back and play on the Wii U, just
Mm-hmm.
because I think the way that we set it up, especially with the 5-player stuff, which might be a little bit difficult for people to find. I'm not sure how many people actually got to experience that, but I think that was something that was cool that we did with the Wii U hardware. Maybe, I personally think it was one of the best use cases of the hardware and its sort of special setup, and we have a lot of fun with it. I mean, in the video you see Henry, you see him going crazy in the Kickstarter video. Yep. We just have so much fun with that, just playing that up so much, just yelling and screaming, and just getting really animated when we're the commentator. Some people just freak out when they see that, and some people really eat it up. So it makes it more exciting though. And the most recent show we did there was a maker fair here in Hampton Roads, and we did the commentator thing, and we finally got the Wii U with I think last time I spoke with you all, I told you we're going to get a modded Wii U from Katsu Kitty. I don't know if we had it yet, but we got it, and it works great. You can plug it in. It's got like a USB-C cable, so we can actually broadcast the Wii U gamepad separately from the Wii U, right? So they put like a little capture card in there, and you can hook it up to any PC or laptop, and then what you can do is you can hook your laptop up to a TV, so you can broadcast the big sort of football ESPN style commentator view to everybody that's watching.
That'd be awesome.
So that makes it a lot more fun. Yeah, and then if you have somebody who's really good at commentating like Henry, who gets super animated and just gets crazy, it makes it more fun. So
absolutely. So all right, so we have one last question from somebody who actually did back it at my suggestion, not having played the first one at all, which was pretty cool. Apparently I have some cool. I don't know, whatever. So the last question he had was, is there any talk, and I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, you mentioned something, and I want to point it out then, will there be any sort of achievement-like system with goals and challenges to achieve while you play through Swapfire Season 2?
Yeah, that's something that we, it's interesting because the system that we built to do the superlatives at the end of the game, where you can, ready, fire, aim, or whatever, all those types of things. All the superlatives that we did at the end, all that stuff is built on a system that could be used also for like long-term achievements. And we wanted to have, I don't want to say we wanted to, we talked a lot about the different types of achievements that we were going to have, and that's what it ended up becoming. Were the superlatives at the end of the match. We thought it would be more fun to have these sort of context sensitive, but there's no reason why we couldn't have the sort of context sensitive superlatives from, going match to match, and then also having like a meta version of that, where we'll have achievements, and it's just an extra layer on top of that system, that then just would get saved, to your account and things like that. And it's another one of those things where that, again, we had the direction going for that, where we had a system that we built to do that, and then there were just extra layers of time and resources necessary to go above and beyond and build a full achievement system, that's really robust and things like that we didn't have the resources to do with the first one. But certainly that's something that we talked about, and can certainly be a part of the second game, and I see no reason why we wouldn't build that.
That's awesome. So yeah, to kind of just wrap up, it's the excitement level here with the staff here. I think this conversation, listening to this, some of the guys were kind of tied up, so they couldn't hop in. And they were like, well, I'll be interested to see what happens. This, I think you talked about a lot more than we were expecting for what Swapfire 2 is going to be. I think a lot of us, and maybe even the people out there who played the first one, were thinking, well, this is going to be more of the same. So why would I want to back something that's just going to be more of the same? But yeah, this is going to be more of the same, but jacked up to another level for sure. Like, we're still going to have the wackiness we loved in the first one. We're still going to have the gameplay styles we loved in the first one. It's just going to look and run a lot better. It's going to be accessible to a lot more people, I think, based on the sales numbers we're seeing so far with the Switch. And I think while you have your hooks into the people that experience it on the Wii U, you're going to be able to put that product in front of a lot more faces now on the Switch, where people weren't able to play on Wii U or didn't have a Wii U. They skipped that generation, be able to jump in on this. And now I can personally attest now. So for all the listeners here, you know how stingy I am. I don't go out and buy many new games, and I certainly don't pay $60 for them. I can tell you with all honesty, and Jeremy can back me up, although probably wouldn't. It's in his favor, so really. I signed up for a Kickstarter account to back this, my first project ever, for Swapfire 2, because I want to see this. That's
awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
No, of course. I want to see this. Everything you've talked about, when we reviewed that first game, no one really knew what to expect. And I saw some screenshots when Donnie first sent me over the code saying, hey, Kevin, do you have time to review this title? I was like, no problem. I got nothing going on. So I'll tackle Swapfire. Looking at some of the screenshots, I was like, I don't know what this is really going to be like. But I can't tell you how much fun I had playing the game. And that's the thing. Like you said, you didn't have a big budget. It was a couple people working their butts off to make this happen, to make this dream happen. You can't – throwing money at that will not make that any better. Having more money will not make a game more fun to play. It will not give it a better concept because it had more money. You hit that nail on the head with that first game. So now all you can do is take the way it looked, the way it operated, and the scale of it, and make it bigger with that money. So that's what I'm encouraging all of our listeners to jump out and do. Or if you know anybody that might be into this, jump out and do. Like I said, it's not a huge investment. They're looking for $5,000 to make sure that they can make this happen in the way that they want it to happen. That vision is there. The groundwork is there. You can go and you can view all the videos. You can see all the love that they put into the project in the first one. The Kickstarter has tons of, sketches and stuff. You can see what's going on. You can watch the video, and you can understand that this is made by a group of guys who at first most are fans of the art. And they're bringing that concept to make it an actuality for other people to then enjoy, which is, like I said, that was a childhood dream of mine to be like, hey, I want to develop that. And you had mentioned the documentaries. I remember dating myself here. Nintendo Power used to, every once in a while, actually send you a VHS tape if you had a subscription. So I remember seeing like the Donkey Kong Country documentary and the making of that game on VHS tape.
That would have been a good one.
Yeah, seeing this stuff coming back and the stuff you're doing, you want to do the documentary. This is bringing it all back for me, and I'm like, that's awesome. You don't see that, or some game designers are so full of themselves or so full of the art that they're just like, let's get this game out, let's pump this game out. You're taking care and you're paying attention to every detail, and you're bringing stuff that you're like, I'd want to see somebody make a game, and I'd want to see that. So I'm going to make that happen for somebody else. Like, you're making those connections for us, which is great. And it's not just, hey, give me the money, I'm going to make this game, you're going to enjoy the game. You're putting in the extra work. You're doing all the extra stuff. You're reaching out to the community and extending that hand out so we can, back you up and make it happen. So I encourage everybody to jump on, like I said, Kickstarter.com. Just search Swapfire 2. It'll pop up. You can reach out to them on Twitter. You got like 7 or 8 days left, guys, to make this happen. $5,000 in Swapfire 2 will be in our sweaty little palms on our Switch, be able to play with our friends. Yep, making it real. So like I said, I had so much fun with the first one. Can't wait to see what the second one brings and the enhancements to it. So that's, I'd make it happen, guys. That's all I can say. So Jeremy, before we wrap up, any last remarks you want to throw out there for anybody?
No, I just hope that for the people that played the first one, I hope you had fun, and I just want people to be cognizant that we are very self-effacing. We realize, especially after listening to a lot of feedback, reading a lot of reviews, like sometimes butting heads with fans to figure out why they didn't like it, because they would just come on and say something like, dude, this game sucks, you suck. And we'd be like, all right, why do we suck? And figure that out. We have gone through and just made this big checklist of all these things. And we figured out that for the most part, everybody likes this concept. In Swapfire people, this is a cool concept. And then some people will say, hey, I either felt like the graphics weren't good enough, or in some ways, the execution, missed here or there. We have listened to all of those things. And just being a small team, I mean, we watched hundreds of people play this game in person at shows, asked them their advice. We had a little demo. We got one of the demo we used, and we passed this around to people's houses. I mean, did as much as we could to make sure that we caught that stuff beforehand. But truly the scope of making a game, especially a console game, and competing at that level, especially with a big 3D game, because you see a lot of indies making high-quality 2D games, not often 3D games, is a really big challenge. But it's the type of thing that I thrive on, wanting to eat that up, and I think our team does. So we want to eat all that up. We want to take all that, all that feedback and that criticism, and just make it so much better, because we're just so hungry to do it and make it better than it was. I mean, it's sometimes you look at those comments and you get depressed for a little while, because you're just like, damn, man, how did I miss that? Or how did we miss that? And it can be like a sucker punch, but then you just like, you suck it back up and you go back to work, and you figure out how you're going to make it better, because that's, that's what, I don't know, that's just what makes it interesting. That's how you make something better. So it's a combination of reading those good comments, like Kevin's review. That was on my birthday last year. I keep bringing that up. Great birthday gift. That's the type of stuff that like gives you the energy to be motivated, so that you can go eat the negativity that somebody else will give you. And you have to eat that and process that, and then you have to make something better, right? I have a little saying that while I'm talking about this, I'll just drop this right here. One of the things I told Henry when we first started working together was, I said, man, in life, you have to be able to eat shit and shit rainbows. Like, that's the secret to life, right? So like, and we're just going to keep doing that, right? So if somebody comes at us and says, hey, I didn't, whatever, y'all suck, this game sucks, we're going to figure out why you said that. Even if at first you can't articulate it, I'm going to push you. And we've had people actually message me, because they saw like I'm publicly going and talking to people, and saying, sort of drawing it out from them, like, hey, why didn't you like this game? You should like this game. And then other people would like publicly or like privately message me, like, listen, don't get upset with me, but like, I didn't get this, or like, I didn't like this part of the game. What's going on? And then I'd explain. And sometimes people are like, oh man, I don't know how I missed that. I think one of the big things that people missed was like the minus button inverts the controls. Yeah. And like, it's a very unorthodox thing to just have it be on the fly. But if you notice, everything in Swapfire is like, just jump in, right? So we never wanted a new player to walk up, or like one player's like, hey man, I got to run, guys. And like the other player's sitting right there to be like, okay, hey, just sit there for 5 minutes while we finish our match. Yeah. Or like, let's quit out to the menu, reconfigure all the controllers, do all this BS. No, it's like, hand the controller to him, press the minus button because you don't like your controllers inverted, and keep going, right? But that was a very unorthodox thing, and a lot of people missed that. That was like a small detail And I think I've talked about this a couple of times now, where it's covered in the tutorial, it's covered in the tips loading screens, it's covered in the e-manual, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
Putting it in those 3 places just wasn't enough. And so that's the type of thing that we have to really look into and say, okay, how do we make sure that if we're going to do something different where we think we're improving upon the state of the art in some way, even if it's a really subtle way, how do we make sure that people know that we did that? So I think there's a lot of things like that. But yeah, we're just hungry to do better. We're glad that people had fun with the first one, and send those comments, because I mean that is the motivation. Like, that's how we keep going. Because if it wasn't for that stuff, it was just the other stuff, we'd be like, done. Like, what are you gonna do? It takes both. I think that's how you make a better product. You have some people that love it and tell you did a good job, and then you have other people that hated it, tell you did a shitty job, and then you figure out how to stay motivated, fix those things, make a better product, and you make the world a better place little by little doing that. So I guess that's about it. Yeah, how was that? That was pretty honest. I'm getting like more honest as I talk to you guys.
Honesty is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. So you reach out. So you said you welcome in the comments. You want people to reach out to you. So where's the best place for them to connect with you guys and SwapFire? And
let's see, I think all of our handles are SwapFire Game, at SwapFire Game. So you can go to twitter.com/SwapFire, or at SwapFire Game/SwapFire Game, Facebook.com/SwapFire Game. You can go to swapfire.net. You can send us an email at support@midnightstatus.com, or you can go to midnightstatus.com, and there's forms on all of our websites. So there's a lot of different ways to contact us. And probably if you just Google SwapFire, you'll find swapfire.net. Or if you Google Midnight Status, you'll find our website. And either of those ways is a good way to connect.
So while we were doing this, some of our staff's actually been watching this broadcast live, and they wanted us to point out that if you're in the need of some voice actors, we know a bunch of podcast guys that are more than happy to help out. So
yes, yeah, we'd like to. We've got to do that. So yeah, that's one of the things we got pinged on a little bit. I have to tell you, my wife, when she heard Dr. Rosen's voice, she was like, "Are you sure about that one?" And I was like, "Come on, man, it's so silly. It's just, it's going to be funny." I think Donnie got it. Well, yeah, it's like a lot of people felt about Rosen. I think like my wife did. I think we had other people that got it and thought it was funny and stuff, doing these different voices. But we're only expanding the cast of characters that's going to be in the game, so we will need more voice actors. So yeah, certainly we'd like to put you guys to work.
Well, we'd be happy to help. So yeah, I think that wraps it up for tonight, guys. So once again, head over to Kickstarter, donate to SwapFire 2. They need your help. We want to see it happen. I want, more than anything, Jeremy wants it to happen, but I want to play this game. So you need to donate so I can play the game. I paid for it, so you all need to jump in and help out as well. Hopefully this conversation helped encourage you. Like you said, if you're expecting more of the same, nope, this is bigger, badder, and better in every single sense of the word. So make sure you jump on there and donate. So yeah, everybody, hit them up, make those donations, come out strong. You have about a week to do so, as we said. So, reach out to them, let them know your feedback, let them know you support them, follow them on Twitter, retweet those things. You see us kind of pimping those tweets every once in a while too. So we're retweeting all those updates that you guys have been putting out as well. So jump in, make sure, I say it each and every week, guys, to, never stop gaming, but instead this time in honor, I'm going to say, be ever mindful of your space time.
Woo!
Night, guys.